Good evening, classmates, fellow debaters, and professor. My name is Roberto Flores, and I am part of the affirmative team along with Francesca and Simone. And tonight's resolution is the U.S. government should do more to protect women's reproductive rights. As the affirmative team, our goal is to put aside negative connotations that this resolution may have and bring to light factual, empirical data that shows case studies and statistics of women who have been harmed in states and countries where women's reproductive rights were not honored. According to the United Nations Human Rights Campaign, women's reproductive rights do not simply relate to the right of a woman to be able to terminate a pregnancy, but also includes education on sexual and reproductive health, a woman's right to plan a family, access to contraceptives, education on commonly transmitted STIs and other venereal diseases, and overall quality of medical facilities free of discrimination toward women. While there may be a personal, moral, and ethical dilemma with the resolution, we implore that you listen to the very common situations where pregnancy could have been completely avoided had there simply been access to contraceptives, education, or both. According to the CDC, in the United States, only 58% of women surveyed from 2015 to 2017 across various demographics in different states said that they felt comfortable seeking reproductive education and contraceptives or had the access to it. What this means is that nearly 40% of women in the US across various demographics feel very ashamed to get this type of information or simply do not have access to it. In many cases, lack of resources leads to alternative, unsafe, and dangerous methods of birth control and abortions. As the affirmative team, we support that the US government should do more to protect women's reproductive rights. Going into my harms. Education. According to a study conducted by USC in September 2017, only 13 states in the US implemented a mandatory sex education class for high school students. The study also found that not all sex education courses were standardized. This heavily implies that when a young man and a young woman are entering into their sexual years, there's a complete lack of education. The study found that because classes are not standardized with mandatory subjects, in the states where those classes were enforced, such subjects like contraceptives, menstrual cycles, general sexual anatomy and function, STDs or STIs, largely differed. The more troubling part is that, more importantly, these things did not have to be medically accurate. This is a huge disadvantage to young adults who could otherwise make more educated decisions. Another harm is insurance companies. So insurance restrictions in insurance companies give access to contraceptives, abortions, and reproductive resources to premium insurance holders only. Another harm that is very bad is government-funded programs. So government-funded programs like Medicaid do exist, but they only allocate resources to provide access to women's reproductive sources under certain circumstances. According to the Medicaid website, 34 states fall under what's called the Hyde Amendment, which states Medicaid funding for abortion care is granted only in cases of life endangerment, rape, or incest. Regulations of this amendment vary from state to state, and these guidelines are very differently interpreted from state to state, which again negate access to the women in need. Legislation written by men. An overwhelming amount of legislation, laws, and amendments that ban abortion and women's reproductive services are written and created by men. According to a 2020 CNN article, Alabama just passed a law that bans abortion even in the case of rape and incest. This is horrific. Let's say that the victim is a 12-year-old girl who is raped and lives in Alabama. She would have to carry this pregnancy to term. I would like to stop there and pass this off to my teammate Francesca.